Our Sangha teacher is no other than Venerable Akaliko. I know that many of you know Bhante already, Bhante Akaliko, and many of you have already heard his teaching. So in case you haven't, just want to read out a brief introduction about Bhante. So Bhante Akaliko is an Australian monk in the Theravadian forest tradition. So he first encountered Buddhism as a teenager and spent over 20 years practicing in different traditions before taking full ordination with Ajahn Brahm as his preceptor. So Bhante Akaliko brings the Buddha's timeless wisdom to today's problem in practical ways, helping people find peace and happiness in their lives. So Bhante is a Buddhist chaplain at the University of Western Sydney and the founder of Rainbody Buddhist community. So Bhante currently resides with his long-term teacher Bhante Sujato at Lokanda Vihara, which is called the monastery at the end of the world. So without further ado, please pay respect to the Triple Gem as well as Bhante.
So welcome everybody. The sound of the rain on the roof here is quite loud. So I'd like to encourage people who are in the audience here, if you wouldn't mind shuffling forward a little bit, might create a stronger connection between us and also save my voice a little bit. So I'm trying to remember the topic of the talk is something like, Meredith, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the importance of community, caring for self and caring for others. And so this is something that I've been thinking about, especially because of coming out of the COVID pandemic period that we've all been through, and perhaps we'll end up going back into from time to time, it seems, because I've become more appreciative, more aware than ever before, I think, of the importance of community in the spiritual life. So for those people at home on Zoom, snuggled into their dunas perhaps, with a cup of tea in your hand, we're connected, we're here, we're part of this community together. And a beautiful thing is with the pandemic, we suddenly found ourselves part of a larger community, an international community, and people tuning in from all around the world. I get messages from people from Iceland, from Mexico, all sorts of places. And we understand that we're connected to something. And then the people who are here today in this room, who have braved the coldest day in Sydney for over 40-something years and come despite the cold, despite the rain. And here we are bonding, bonding, connecting over the arduous journey that has brought us here together today. So when I think about community, I think about lots of different things. And I'm going to explore some of these ideas with you today. And when I think about community, I think what brings us together. And one of the things that helps form a religious community or a spiritual community is coming together. And I know this is a little bit of a controversial word, coming together to do rituals. Rituals are one of these things that helps us feel like we're together, helps us feel like we're part of something that is shared, helps us feel that we belong and establish that sense of connection. Can also be something that divides us as well. So, but here today with the group that's in the room and perhaps those at home, we can participate in one of the most common rituals of Buddhism, which is going for refuge and reciting the words of recollecting the Triple Gem. So does that sound okay? Yeah, a bonding experience for us all. So for those who know the words, you're part of the in-group. And so this is one of the barriers. You know, if you know the words, you feel like you belong, and if you understand the words, then you're even more in, if you're not just reciting them without knowing the meaning. And for those who don't know the words and don't know the meaning, it's okay. You're still valid, you still belong, and you can just enjoy the sense of being part of a group who is sharing these ancient verses that have kept Buddhists together, connected, in community for over 2,500 years. And so we're part, not just of this group of people here tonight, those online, but part of a big lineage of spiritual people who are connected by these verses and who form the community of Buddhists for over 2,500 years. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go for refuge. We're going to recite the Namo Tassa. We're going to recite the 3 refuges, and then we're going to recite the Itipiso. Okay, so let's get started. So we always begin with 3 bows. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, dhammam saranam gacchami, sangham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi buddham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi sangham saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi buddham saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Itipiso bhagava araha samma sambuddho ija charana sampano sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisathamma sarati sattva deva manusanam buddho bhagavati Vakato bhagavata dhammo sambhitiko akaliko ihipasiko opanayiko achatam veditaro viyuddhi Supatipano bhagavato sawaka sangho Ujjupatipano bhagavato sawaka sangho Nyayapatipano bhagavato sawaka sangho Samichipatipano bhagavato sawaka sangho Yadidam chattari purisayani atta purisapurana Esa bhagavato sawaka sangho Ahuneyo pahuneyo kahuneyo Anjali karaniyo Anutarang punya ekang lokasati. Good. So this is one way that we connect to each other and to our spiritual tradition. And another way we can connect is to do some meditation together. So I've been asking lately for suggestions for meditation. Would you like just to be quiet for what, 25 minutes, is it? Half an hour? 25 minutes? Yeah. Would you like to be quiet? Would you like guided meditation? I'm looking for some community contribution here. Metta meditation. We had a request. Is there anyone who is against metta meditation? No? Very good. So you know what I'll do tonight? I'll do a sunshine metta meditation that is inspired by a monk I met when I was in Thailand, Longpo Sang, who was some ridiculous age, like 103 or something. He was very old, but he was very happy and he was very kind. And being with him, he said, I asked him for some advice. I said, can you give me some advice? And he said, be like the sunshine. He said, don't you miss it when it's not there? And so I always think of him when I do this contemplation, which is bringing the image of a sun or a warm glowing light to our chest and helping to generate that feeling of love visually for us. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to do Longpo Sang's sunshine metta meditation. So let's take a few moments to set up our posture. So it's very important to be comfortable and to sit in a position that suits you. So find that nice comfy spot that works. You're going to be here for 25 minutes. And we're going to begin by letting go. Closing the eyes, letting go of the world outside. Letting go all the stress, activity, busyness of your day. Letting go of the past. It's leaving it, putting it down. There's nothing that can be done about the past. And so you can let go. And not worrying or planning, thinking about the future. Future is so uncertain. And so instead, not being stuck in the past, not running towards the future. Instead, you can be here, now. Present, aware, but relaxed. So just take a few moments to relax relax the body, letting go of tightness, letting go of tension. Softening through the body, relaxing down, feeling the face soften, relax, unclenching the jaw, allow the shoulders to feel heavy, relax down through the arms, and feel any tightness or tension draining away through the fingers. Letting go of any tightness in the neck or shoulders. Feel the relaxation down through the back, softening, relaxing, all the way down, releasing, right down, tailbone. And feeling the front of the body relax as you let go, allowing the ribs, even the lungs, even the heart to soften. Draw the relaxation down to the abdomen, letting go deep inside all that tightness and tension. Softening down through the hips, down through the thighs, relaxing all the way down past the shins, ankles, feeling any tension, any tightness draining away to the feet. And now the body is relaxed. And you notice where before there was tension and tightness, now there is comfort, ease. And you notice that when the body is relaxed, the mind naturally, all by itself, becoming calm and peaceful. And so we'll use this relaxed body, this calm, peaceful mind, to begin our practice of love. We start with the words of love for ourselves. May I be happy. May I be happy. May I be happy. Repeating these words slowly, carefully, meaning it. May I be happy. May I be happy. May I be happy. And as you say these words, imagining the center of your chest, soft, warm, glowing light. This light has a feeling that is soft, warm, feeling of love, kindness, friendship, and goodwill. May I be happy. May I be happy. May I be happy. And as we keep repeating these words, that soft light growing stronger, growing brighter, and that feeling of love grows stronger too. May I be happy. May I be happy. May I be happy. This light is love, growing brighter, stronger, radiating now, soaking the body with light, with love. The whole body drenched with light, suffused with love. And now this light radiating from our body, gently shining outwards, radiating outwards, glowing brighter. This love connecting, touching other people here in this room, wherever you are, touching the beings around us. And now we think, may they be happy. May they be happy. May they be happy. So we include them in this light, include them in our love. Meaning it, wanting it. May they be happy. May they be happy. May they be happy. You see this light wrapping up these people, these beings in light and love. This glowing sun shining on all beings. Your love wraps up animals and beings on the earth, dogs, cats, kangaroos. This light, this love reaches beneath the earth. Beetles, worms, may they be happy. This love reaches into the oceans, under the water, fish, lobsters, whales. May they be happy. And this light, this love, filling the skies, butterflies, bats, birds, even the mosquitoes. May they be happy. May they be happy. May they be happy. So this light, this love radiating across the entire world, bathing all beings in love. This light radiates ever outwards, growing stronger and brighter. Filling darkness of space with light. Love. Radiating ever outwards, infinite, immeasurable, only love. May all beings be happy. May all beings may all beings and now drawing back, drawing back, drawing back that light, drawing it down to the earth, back to this room, back to the center of your chest. Knowing that that love is always there in your heart whenever you need it. And so you can let that feeling of love fade. And before we finish, taking a few moments to reflect, looking back over our meditation. Were you able to relax, let go? And how did that feel? Do you feel different now when you began? Why? Were you able to feel some metta, some love? Was it easy or hard? Why? And now, having done some good with our mind, we can dedicate the merits of our practice, thinking, may all beings experience love. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings experience the ultimate happiness, Nibbana. And so you can relax your awareness. When you're feeling ready, you can gently open your eyes and come back to the room. So metta meditation is a beautiful way to connect with other people from the safety of your cushion. Yeah. Of course, it's a very different story once we get off the cushion and get into the world, isn't it? Yeah. Becomes a bit more challenging sometimes. And so today we're talking about community, and we're talking about self-care and caring for others. And I wanted to involve the community that's here and also the community online by asking, what does this word mean to you? Community. And it's a scenario type situation. So you're telling me, and you are the advertisers for community. So you're in favor of community. And so I'd like to just hear from you with one word only, an association. When you hear this word community, what comes into your head? So those people who are in the room, you can respond. And those people who are online, why don't you pop it into the chat? And Meredith, I had to turn my device off because of the echo feedback. So I can't, would you be able to bring the screen up to me? Thanks. So I'm going to go around the room and ask, I know this is connection. This is real life, people. Welcome to the world, right? So one word that you associate with community and you're in favor of community. So it's going to be a positive thing. So we're going, yeah, momentarily for the time being. But also just to make it a bit more challenging, a bit more interesting, if someone else says the word that you were thinking of, too bad, you need a new word, right? So challenge. So I'm gonna go first then. So when I think about community, connection. Okay, yeah? Should we go around the room? Trust. Trust. Responsibility. Relationships. Yep. Dynamic. Nice. Passion. Wonderful. Care. Compassion. Yep. Commune. Yep. Who's next? Support. Support. Yeah. Like-minded. Yes. And Meredith? Care. And there might be some. Oh, I heard from you. Yes. So there might be some people online who've said something. Dharma
and
friends.
sharing.
Sharing. Very good. And there's more people online too. I can see you.
Yes, more coming through. Understanding.
Understanding.
And people around you.
People around you. One word, people online.
Togetherness.
Togetherness. Right. So what I'm getting already from this is that there's not one type, there's not one community, right? There's a lot of different communities. Community is going to mean something different to everyone. So this is a positive spin on community. We're the advertisers, yeah? What if we were to have another go and we were to think about what we really feel when we think about community? Maybe it's slightly different. Maybe there's a part of you that when you think about other people, because this is what community is, right? When you think about other people, it's not, I can see some faces already going, yeah, it's not quite the same. Yeah. So let's go around again quickly. This time in this public forum with no one watching at all, we're going to confess our innermost thoughts about what it means to have community. And this time we're not doing a glossy advertisement. This time we're maybe thinking about something that resonates with you personally. And you'll see why I'm doing this in a second. So I'm going to say, I'm going to steal yours actually. When I think about community, I think about responsibility. So you said it in a positive way.
Well, yes.
And now I'm kind of like, yeah, responsibility. So do you see where I'm going with this? Yeah. Is anyone unsure? Ties. T-I-E-S. Yeah.
Challenging.
Challenging. Right now we're getting to the nitty gritty, aren't we? Yeah. Trouble. Exclusive. Drama. Yeah. Politics. Distance. Right. Bickering. Yes.
Right, sorry. Distraction.
Distraction. He says, very good. Judgment. Right. Meredith? Oh, Alex?
Quarrel.
Quarreling. Right. So it's quite a different picture, isn't it? What about online?
Wariness.
Wariness, yeah.
Expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Views. Conflict. And unattainable.
Right. So again, quite a different picture, each individual bringing their own view. So this is important to recognize that this is why we have these different experiences in life. We all have, sometimes my teachers would say, you know, this isn't one monastery. This is everyone in this monastery has a different version of what this monastery should be. And it's the same with our society as well. And the difficult thing is when we come up against other people's view of reality and what community should be, and it clashes with our own. So I want to leave that there just for a second and come back to this idea of connections and connecting, because sometimes when I think about Buddhism, I think that these two other kind of ways that people approach Buddhism and Buddhist communities. So some people will really love this idea of this hermit life, this detached seclusion, people living far away from other humans. And some other people will love this idea of maybe like a bodhisattva or a bodhisattva ideal, where you're in service to community, where you dedicate yourself to others and helping them out. And maybe even within ourselves, we can see that we might have a particular tendency towards one of those. We might be attracted to the idea of renunciation, of leaving the world behind, of closing the door and not worrying what's going on outside, not bothered by the vicissitudes of the world, other people's suffering, the environment, those sorts of things. And then there might be other people who need to be around people, need to be of service, want to be of use, and they might get perhaps overwhelmed with suffering. They might have poor boundaries, and they might have a tendency to get used up by people, and then they become exhausted and it becomes too much. And sometimes those people who really love this idea of detachment can become cold and unfeeling and uncaring towards others. And perhaps there's part of us that is one of these sometimes, and another of these other times. And our personal relationship to our own practice, as well as our personal relationship to our community, is going to shift a little bit. Yeah, there's sometimes where we just really need some space to chill out. Sometimes we just need to get away from the world. And then sometimes we need contact with humans. And we need to feel like we belong, that we're a part of something. So this is something that became really important during COVID, that, suddenly people found all their fun things taken away from them, all of the things that they usually do with people taken away, and they had to stay home. As Bhante Sujato said, we're all Rapunzel now, stuck in our towers. And suddenly we all became like monks and nuns, living the life of a recluse. Well, sort of. And now I notice that people are a little bit shy of coming into society again. People are a bit reluctant. Now we've got these hybrid type events where people can stay at home. And so we're connected, but we're not really connected to each other. So I just wanted to explore these two ideas of connection and disconnection. Because just as there's different views on, what a community is, or different ideas about what Buddhism is, and how we participate in it, how we connect to it, there's some differences perhaps between the types of connections we have and the types of disconnections we have. So when I think about connection, I think about two types of connection. I think about a wholesome connection, a positive connection. And that for me is something that feels very present, still, embraced, held. When I feel connected, I feel like I want to be there. I want to feel steady and stable. I want to feel like I'm in the company of good friends. When you feel that sense of connection, you belong, you're safe. You might feel that sense of connection very deeply in meditation or in nature. And you know what it feels like when you feel connected. Yeah? It's like you've come into a flow, or you're in harmony. So this is a nice way that we can feel connected. Yeah? But then there's also another kind of connection. It's the ties, the hooks. It's not present. It's not stable. It's moving, reaching out, craving, desire, addiction, attachment. And this kind of mind wants to connect, wants to reach out and grab, wants to hold on to things to feel good. Could be, oh, I don't know, this kind of connection, almost like a tuning out. Could be you're connecting to things that make you feel good, like alcohol, drugs, addictive cycles, where you can't not do something, where you feel you have to. You need to be connected to this behavior, these people, this process. And this kind of connection is an unwholesome connection. So there's this kind of healthy connection where you feel steady, stable, present. And then there's this maybe unhealthy, unwholesome, unhelpful connection where it's about craving, desire, moving. And then we have this disconnection. So often people, when they think about, monks and nuns or retreatants going off into the forest, they're like, oh, what a wonderful way to disconnect from the world. But there's also this double meaning with disconnect. There could be a wholesome and an unwholesome. So the unwholesome disconnection is that kind of thing we do where we tune out, like on the phone, or disconnect using entertainment like Netflix, or you just binge a whole series in a day, and the world outside is gone, vanished, you're disconnected. You might have the kind of disconnection that comes from phubbing. You know what phubbing is? It's that thing where it's phone snubbing, where you are sitting together with someone in conversation, and then you see it happen. Slowly someone picks up the phone, and then they're gone. You're gone, and they're gone. And this world, of course, this is the world that we're connected to, and then the world in front of us, we've kind of tuned out, we've disconnected. And disconnection can also come again from addictive behavior, from alcohol, drugs, even things like pornography, where we are kind of disconnected from ourself in a way. We're disconnected from the experience that we're actually having internally. We're reaching out, and that disconnect is also something we might experience sometimes through meditation that is motivated by a desire to tune out, to escape. Some people call it like a moha samadhi, like a deluded samadhi, where we're not actually really present or aware. We're just kind of tuning out, trying to find a little bit of peace, a little bit of escape. And so this escapism, of course, is kind of disconnect as well. We don't want to see reality. We don't want to tune into reality. We want to tune out. This is kind of an unhealthy way of going through the world. In the same way, there's also this wholesome aspect to disconnection, just as there is a wholesome aspect to connection. And when I think about a wholesome form of disconnecting, I think about renunciation. I think about retreat. I think about, taking time to restore and rejuvenate. It's a kind of disconnect that is wholesome because it's a way that we step out so that we can step back in. It's not checking out or tuning out, but taking some time so that when we come back, we're able to be more present, more tuned in, more connected. And so I kind of wanted to just go through those extremes, which are dichotomies. You know, it's kind of like, you know, community is this, Buddhism is that, these kind of extremes, and connection, disconnection. Again, I'm talking about extremes. But the reason why I wanted to mention the extremes is to start us thinking about what it means to have balance. So all of these things, self-care, care for others, they can become extreme. We can end up self-caring and only caring about ourselves, or we can end up caring about others and neglecting ourselves. And so we want to bring these kinds of things into harmony, into balance. So even when I think about the time of the Buddha, these ultimate images of community that come to mind are things like the sutta with Kimbala, Anuruddha, and Nandya, where they are blending like milk and water. And I think, oh, it's such a beautiful image, you know, this community of people blending, looking after each other. The way they look after each other is they do some chores, and they let the other person, they're like, what do you want to do? We'll just do whatever you want to do. And it's so beautiful. And this image, this scene that we enter of perfect harmony and social cohesion is contrasted to where the Buddha was just before, which was at Kosambi, where there'd been this huge fight and the monks were behaving like fools and arguing and hurting each other with words. And so we go from this kind of extreme to this other extreme where we have this kind of ideal world presented. And another sutta that just comes into my mind is the Gilana Sutta, where the Buddha encounters a monk with dysentery. Do you know this one? A monk who unfortunately has soiled himself, is very, very sick. And the Buddha sees him. And it's like, why have you not been looked after by the other monks? And he says, well, they don't think I do anything, you know. They don't care for me because I'm of no use to them. And the Buddha cleans him up, washes him, gets his robes washed, and looks after this man. And so, again, these kind of, you know, you have this beautiful caring side of the Buddha, and these other monks who just didn't care at all. And you think, how can we have so many extremes? And, you know, sometimes people will say, oh, you must be like the Buddha and, you know, care for the sick and always look after others. And then they're like, you must be like the Buddha, you must retreat from the world and go into seclusion. And how do we reconcile these things in our mind? It's really tricky sometimes. We're going to need some wisdom, actually, to hold these things in balance. We're going to have to see where we're at now, not where we were in the past or where we want to be in the future. We're going to have to see ourselves very clearly, the situation that we're in very clearly, so that we know what's the appropriate response, so that we know what we need to do. And this is a challenge. And I don't have a particular answer for you because you're all, as we've already discovered, quite different. We're all going to need to work this out ourselves. We're going to have to look at the situation that we're in. We're going to have to understand, this is how much energy I have. I need to do some self-care. Or that person is suffering right now. I'm able to help. I can care for others. And so the classic image that I think about when I think about this topic is the image of the acrobats, which is a very famous sutta, the Sedaka Sutta. I think it's 47:19 in the Samyutta Nikaya. And this is a wonderful, we enter the scene. It's a couple of acrobats, outcast acrobats, male teacher and his female disciple. This is a story that the Buddha told. And they have a pole, a bamboo pole, and one of them will climb up the pole. The apprentice, obviously the small one, the lighter one, will climb up the pole and they'll do some tricks and they'll make some money and they will hopefully not injure themselves. So this, when you think about acrobats, think about balance, right? Think about balance. And so the sutta goes, the teacher says, you know, climb up on my on the pole and jump up on my shoulders. And then he says, you look after me and I'll look out for you. And that way we will do our tricks, make our money, and we'll survive. And the girl says, no, that's not right. So remember, the teacher said, you look out for me and I'll look out for you. And she says, no, that's not right. She says, I'll look after myself, you look after yourself, and that way we'll do our tricks, make our money, and we'll go on. And the Buddha said, yes, this is how it should be. And so sometimes you hear this and you're like, what? We should look after ourselves? And of course, there's a lot of people in here nodding their heads, like, yes, we should. Yeah, so we should look after ourselves. And the Buddha says, so he explains it a little bit. He says, looking after yourself, you look after others. Looking after others, you look after yourself. And how do you look after yourself that looks after others? You practice meditation, mindfulness meditation. So mindfulness meditation is, of course, the Satipatthanas. So for those who aren't familiar with the Satipatthanas, it's things like looking at being mindful of the body, being mindful of the breath, the postures, the parts of the body, and even things like death contemplation, being aware of the body and its demise, its impermanence. Mindfulness of feelings, of the three types of feelings, pleasant, painful, and neither pleasant nor painful. Awareness, mindfulness of the mind, the chitta. So what kind of experiences are going on in the mind? And mindfulness of the dhammas, the phenomena, mental phenomena, things like the hindrances and the enlightenment factors. And so these are things that the Buddha encouraged us to be aware of, to be mindful of. So it makes sense, yeah, if we're kind of mindful of these things, then we're going to be more aware, we're going to be more present, we're going to have more wisdom. And so we're going to benefit ourselves, but we're also going to benefit others. And so this is how he said, you look after yourself. By looking after yourself, you look after others. And then he said, and you can look after others by looking after yourself. How do you do that? One more time. Mindfulness meditation. So the Buddha was really trying to encourage mindfulness meditation, yeah? And he said, how does looking after others look after yourself? And he says, this is the development of meditation. You look after yourself and you look after others through meditation, through developing a meditation practice, cultivating a meditation practice, and maintaining and keeping that meditation practice. And then you look after yourself by looking after others, by cultivating a mind of patience, khanti, patience, acceptance, by practicing avihimsa, non-harm, harmlessness, by having metta citta, which is a mind of love, and by practicing sympathy, compassion. So these four things, khanti, can you remember them? Yeah, citta, yeah, the next one was harmlessness. So khanti, which is patience, acceptance. That seems like it would be useful, wouldn't it, to develop a mind like that? If you have a mind like that and you connect with others, then you're patient, you're calm, you're looking after others, and you're looking after yourself. You don't get irritated or angry, short-tempered. Yeah? So patience is one way that we can look after ourselves and look after others. The next one was avihimsa, non-harm, non-cruelty. That is compassion and harmlessness, kindness. That's that kind of mind state. When you've got that, you're looking after yourself. You don't allow anger and hatred to arise, cruelty, wanting to hurt, wanting to harm, doesn't enter the mind. You've got this beautiful heart full of harmlessness towards others. So you can see how this would be beneficial, yeah, for you and for others. The next one is metta citta, a mind full of love. Obviously going to be beneficial for others. This is one of the things the Buddha talked about, that sutra I mentioned before, with the three monks living in harmony, blending like milk and water, regarding each other with eyes of love. So beautiful. We can look at each other with eyes of love. So having a mind full of love, obviously, it's going to be good for you. It feels so nice. We just did some practice of metta. You enjoyed it, yeah? It feels good. It feels so good. It nourishes the heart. And of course, when you feel good and you've got a mind of love, other people benefit too. So nice, so beautiful. That last one, sympathy. Sympathy is like compassion, understanding, empathy. This is something that's going to be good when we come into contact with other people, because we can be there for them. We can hold them. And when we have empathy and sympathy for others, we develop wisdom. We see suffering. We can hold it. And so this is why the Buddha said, through this simile of the acrobats, that we should have this mind that looks after itself, and looking after itself, looking after ourselves, we look after others. And why in that process of looking after others, by having patience and love and kindness, we're looking after ourselves. We look after our own mind. So it's a very beautiful, beautiful image. At first you might think, oh, that doesn't sound very Buddhist, look after yourself. But actually this is the basis of the whole Buddhist path. It's like that classic oxygen mask thing on the plane. Like, you have to put your own mask on first, and then you help others. If you don't put your own mask on, don't guard your mind, don't develop the mind, purify it, let go of defilements. If you don't do that, then what does it matter if you put the mask on someone else? You've gone. You may not even get to that stage of putting it on them. You need to put it on yourself first and then help others. And so this is why we practice in the way that we practice. We take ourselves away from the world with a healthy form of disconnection. One that is deliberate, a deliberate renunciation, nekama, one of the 3 right intentions, renunciation, letting go. We don't need to connect with all the social events. We don't need to connect with all the sensory desires that exist. By stepping away, by disconnecting, we create a space where we can truly nourish, truly understand where happiness lies. When we have that sense of peace and contentment and stability of mind, purified from some of the hindrances, then we can start to develop those beautiful states of love, of compassion, and we bring that into the world. We don't just leave it on our cushion. We don't just keep it to ourselves. We bring it into the world and we can impact other people with those beautiful minds. And we're so lucky here, everyone here online, anyone who has contacted the Dharma, connected with the Dharma, you have this extraordinary privilege. So many billions of beings born into the world never hear the Dharma, never connect with the teaching, never develop the mind, never understand the true potential that we have. And so another sutra I'm thinking of is similar in a way, that this, a mind that is, we're so fortunate. We just should take a moment to acknowledge and to be happy about this fact that we have this access to these teachings and that we have this opportunity because our mind is going to benefit. And there's many people who will never even think about this and who will go on in ignorance, creating suffering for themselves and others, which is a great tragedy. But the Buddha, when he talked about this kind of, do you care for self or do you care for others? He always said that the best kind of person is one of 4 types of people that exist in the world. It's one of my favorite sutras. I often tell it, so forgive me if you've heard this one before. So the Buddha says there are 4 types of people who exist in the world. This is the Chavalata Sutta, which is in the Anguttara Nikaya's 4s, number 95. So there's 4 types of people who exist in the world. The first type of people, the first type of person, is the kind of person who doesn't practice for themselves, nor practices for others. It's the kind of person who just doesn't care about developing the mind, doesn't care about other people and their life. So this person, the Buddha said, is like a cremation log, a log that's burnt at either end and covered in excrement in the middle. Pretty intense image, yeah? It's like this burnt log covered in shit. It's like the Buddha knew how to construct a simile. And so this log, he says, is worthless. No one wants it in the town. No one wants it in the forest. So this is the kind of person who doesn't care about their own development, doesn't care about other people's development. So that's something we don't want to be, yeah? The next kind of person, the Buddha says, is someone who practices for themselves but doesn't, no, someone who practices for others, but doesn't practice for themselves. So this person is better than the last person. They practice for others, but they don't practice for themselves. Maybe like kind of like a martyr kind of figure, maybe, you know, tries to fix everyone else's problems, doesn't bother fixing their own. So this person is better than the cremation log covered in excrement because they look after others. They're concerned about their well-being and their practice. The next person is a person who practices for themselves, but not for others. Are you with me? Okay, good. It's getting late. Practices for themselves but doesn't practice for others. And this is better than the person who practices for others, but not themselves. Still with me?
Yeah.
And you think, what? Someone who practices for themselves is better than someone who practices for others? And you think, this doesn't make any sense. Yes, it does. Yeah, it's that oxygen mask analogy, or the image in the sutras is someone stuck in a rice paddy that needs to be pulled out with a stick. You don't wade into the rice paddy. If someone's already stuck in the mud, you're just going to get stuck in the mud too, you know? So you need to get the stick. You need to look after yourself to pull that person out. And so this is the third type of person that exists in the world. So that person is better than someone who only looks after others, and even better than the kind of person who doesn't care who's the log. But the last person, the best person in the world, is the person who cares for themselves and cares about others, who practices for themselves and practices for others. And this person is not a burnt log. This person is like clarified ghee. The Buddha says, you know, milk comes from the cow, milk becomes curds, curds become butter, butter becomes ghee, ghee becomes clarified ghee, the best kind of ghee, the most clear, the most purified product of the cow. And this kind of person is like that, clarified, clear, purified, the very best kind of person in the world, someone who practices for themselves and practices for others. And so thinking about finishing up, trying to draw together some of the threads of this talk, thinking about your own life. There'll be times when you need to practice self-care, look after yourself. There'll be times when you need to look after others. These times will shift. Sometimes you'll have to do one, sometimes you'll have to do the other. But the important thing is to know when and to not become disconnected from others, not become disconnected from self, but to have healthy connections with others that is beneficial to you and beneficial to them and beneficial to both of you. And to know when a connection is unhealthy and to know when your disconnection is unhealthy. And so to understand. And so this is why, as we go along the Buddha path, it's so easy just to, ask other people's opinion. So easy to read a book. So easy to take an extract from a sutta here, an extract from a sutta there, because that's what we want to hear. We're kind of catering to our own defilements sometimes. But what we really need to do in all areas of our life is to start developing that wisdom, that knowing of what is wholesome, what is unwholesome for you right now, what is skillful, what is beneficial to you. And so when we develop this wisdom and we can see in this way, when we start to understand ourselves better through mindfulness, by understanding our own minds, by seeing clearly, by not just going in the world blindly in the darkness, because we have this Dharma that teaches us how to do these things, how to develop mindfulness, how to develop wisdom. When we have these opportunities, we should make the most of them so that we can become clarified, pure, like the ghee, when we can look after others, looking after ourselves, and looking after ourselves, looking after others. So this is a little talk on self-care and caring for others, thinking about community, and I hope it has been of some benefit to you all. We have a few minutes for questions from our online community or from the real life people. If there's anything you'd like to ask, comments or criticisms, very welcome.
With that last story, is it specifically one who practices meditation for themselves or practices like selfless, like service, I guess, for themselves and service for others?
Yeah, so the question was, is it specifically talking about meditation or is it about service? So in this series, there's a series of, I think, maybe 5 suttas. If you look in the Anguttara Nikaya 4s, 95 to 99 or 100, there's a series of suttas and they all follow this similar pattern. And so some of them are talking specifically about ethics, and some of them are talking about more about practice. And I can't remember the word, but in the sutta that I can't remember the Pali, but in the sutta I'm referring to, it's kind of like your mode of being. So it's not necessarily like a samadhi practice or a meditation practice. It's more kind of the way, the groove that you've gotten into in your life. So it's like, you know, how do you live? Like, do you care about others? And some of these other suttas will say things like, you know, they don't practice for themselves good ethics, nor do they encourage other people to practice good ethics. So it's that kind of similar thing. So yeah, it's all wrapped up. So I think the kind of takeaway that I would get from that is, how are you living your life? You know, are you living it purely for yourself, or are you living it in a way that benefits both yourself and others? And that will, of course, incorporate your meditation practices. We did today, we did some metta, you know, including other people in our practice is really important. And our ethics, you know, our sila, if we don't care about our ethics, you know, and we don't care about other people's ethics, then they're going to get in trouble. We're going to get in trouble. If we only care about our ethical conduct, but never condemn things like killing and stealing when other people do it, then we're creating more suffering in the world for them. They're creating more suffering in the world for them. And we're not encouraging them to come out of that behavior. So this is why there's that kind of sense of, in Buddhism, of happiness and community cohesion is never about the individual. It's always about the individual and this other person and combined. So Buddha often says these 3 things that, you know, beneficial for themselves, beneficial for others, beneficial for both themselves and others. So it's kind of like this awareness of kind of like there's the individual, the other person, but then there's this thing that happens together, which is us in community. This is what community is. You know, we don't exist as individuals. We are part of something, whether we like it or not. We're part of this bigger picture. And so there's this kind of myth of the individual in a way, but we're reliant entirely upon other people, and those people are reliant upon us as well. We still have our own karma, we still have our own consequences to our actions, and they have their own karma, their own consequences. But out of desire to reduce suffering, we think about ourselves and we think about others. We think about those two things together. Sorry, that was a long answer.
Oh, thank you.
Anything else?
Okay. I can understand the teaching of Buddha, and it's just like, you have to love yourself first before you can love others. But yes, as a Buddhist, we can understand that. But as a layperson that doesn't know Buddhism, they will say, you're very selfish. You only care about yourself. So how do you explain that?
Yeah, and one of the things that most frequently comes up when we tell the story of the Buddha's life is people are really upset that the Buddha left his family to go and renounce. And that's kind of like the ultimate, isn't it? It's like, for many people, that's like this ultimate betrayal of this kind of sacred trust of partnership, of parentship and responsibility to his family and his society. And he turned his back on the world and just walked out. And so it seems like that's like a really selfish act on the one hand, but then he went on to become the Buddha, and he was only able to do that because he practiced meditation, developed his mind. And when he did that, he was able to be of such benefit to so many people, to the extent that we're still talking about him today and his teaching. And so he was the pathfinder, the forder. He was able to carry all these people across the stream. And so the benefits that he displayed by renunciation was something that we kind of hold in balance with that very small commitment of marriage, and children and family. And then when we see the kind of big picture is what the Buddha saw, is that that's just one small moment in this long cycle of suffering, of samsara. How many bones of our past lives. It's like this big mountain. How much blood have we shed? It's like these huge oceans. How many mothers have we lost? How many brothers and sisters and partners have we lost in the past? And so when you kind of look at this huge mass of suffering of samsara, and you think about this tiny disappointment of losing a husband, or father leaving home, then against that big picture, it takes on a different shade, it takes on a different meaning. And I think that's why that's something that people who perhaps don't have a full understanding of Buddhist teaching, cosmology, they find it difficult to accept. But I think probably if that's like a big thing that's hard to appreciate, then just that oxygen mask analogy, got to look after yourself first so that you're able to help others. You do that, deliberately. And we can think of many ways in the world where we're tired, grumpy, irritable, run down, over it. And we need just to rejuvenate, restore, replenish. And unless we do that, we're not going to be able to help people. We need to take a break. And one healthy way to do that is through meditation and by chillaxing for a bit in a wholesome, positive way. And then we can re-enter refreshed. That's the kind of solitude, that's the kind of renunciation. It's not selfish because it benefits others. We should probably think about finishing up.
So let's pay respect to
Let's pay
Bhante,
respect to the Triple Gem.
to the Triple Gem and Bhante.
Araham Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivade. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Sahawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Very good. So I can stick around for a few minutes if anyone has any questions. Otherwise, see you again soon.